So, hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with David K. Miller on Ascension and the Arcturians. Now, David is the director and founder of an international meditation group focused on personal and planetary healing. He has been the director of this global healing group called Group of 40 for over 15 years. David has been developing groundbreaking global healing techniques using group consciousness. He is the author of a number of books, including Teachings of the Sacred Triangle, Volumes 1 to 3, New Spiritual Technology for the Fifth Dimensional Earth, Raising the Spiritual Light Quotient of the Earth, and his latest is, I believe, Expand Your Consciousness. And if you want to check him out, Group of 40, that's spelled F-O-R-T-Y, groupof40.com. So, David, welcome to you.
Well, Steve, it's wonderful to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss my work with you and your listeners.
Great. Can you say something, because I've read a lot of your books, David, and a lot of my listeners may not know what your work you do, but can you just say, how do you work with the Arcturians? Just say something about your work, please.
Okay, well, I'm a trans channel, and I've been receiving messages from the Arcturians since 1996. I began this work when I was on a camping at the Grand Canyon at a point called Sublime Point. And during that camp and overview of the Grand Canyon, I received messages from the Arcturians about how to do planetary healing. And they've been giving me instructions ever since. Also, your listeners may be interested to know that I am involved in the Kabbalah, and I study Jewish mysticism and connecting with spirit guides. They are called in Hebrew Magid, is a well-known technique among some of the rabbis going back to the Middle Ages. So through their connections and my connections with them, I've written 12 books which are focused on planetary healing and a new technique for planetary healing called biorelativity. Wow,
great. So, David, let me ask you about the Ascension Process, which I think is what the Arcturians are kind of really interested in. How do you see the Ascension Process? What is it, and how is it working at the moment? How is it unfolding?
Well, the Ascension Process is the ability to go from this dimension, which is called the third dimension, directly into the fifth dimension. Now, there is a dimension in between called the fourth dimension. When we die, we go into the fourth dimension. Sometimes the fourth dimension is referred to as the astral world. But the basic understanding is that in the fourth dimension, you are still in the Earth's incarnational cycle. That means that when you die, you will come back into the Earth. This is similar to the wheel of karma and the wheel of incarnations in Hinduism and Buddhism. Now, in the Ascension, we are able to translate or skip the fourth dimension and go into the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension has also been described as the Garden of Eden. It's the home where Jesus is. And to go in there, you need to accelerate and learn your life lessons and be at a certain spiritual vibration. That includes being at a certain level of compassion, love, and equanimity or detachment in a spiritual way from the earth.
So how do you see it unfolding at the moment? What kind of process is happening on the earth right now?
Well, right now we're in a huge polarization. This polarization means that the darker negative forces are getting stronger. At the same time, the spiritual forces are also getting stronger. The Arcturians say that the fifth dimension is like a sphere, and the third dimension is also like a sphere, and these two dimensions are going to be intersecting. At that point of intersection, there will be a huge downloading of light and information. It really requires a huge spiritual energy to translate yourself into the fifth dimension. So at that point of intersection, that's when the ascension will be occurring. And this will have a dramatic effect on the spiritual energy of the entire planet.
And in the ascension process, do you see that people will be leaving the planet in terms of ascension, or is it more a download of light that people just will be here but more enlightened?
No, people can leave the planet At that moment, I've compared it to the Star Trek movies where they are trying to go from the star ship to a planet, and they are using the bilocator. So you will actually, if you are prepared, if you have done the necessary spiritual work, you will actually leave the planet. Now, there are some people who may decide to return to the planet to do work, but if they return to the planet, they will return as an ascended master, and they will not be in the normal body. This is similar to when Jesus returned to the earth. When he returned after his resurrection, he did not come back in a normal earth body. He came back in his ascended body.
Now, I really loved your books, the teachings from the Sacred Triangle, I think volumes 1 to 3. Can you just say this symbol of the Sacred Triangle, what does it represent?
Well, the idea of the Sacred Triangle is that there is a new paradigm for spiritual and planetary healing. And that spiritual paradigm is called the Sacred Triangle. The spiritual paradigm includes the native teachings of the peoples of the planet, the White Brotherhood, White Sisterhood, which are basically the mystical energies of the higher religions, and finally, what I call galactic spirituality. And the idea of the Sacred Triangle is that we must unite all three perspectives in order to heal this planet.
There are a number of Arcturian tools that seem to be assisting us at the moment. For example, I've got 4 or 5 here. The Ring of Ascension, starting off with that.
Well, visualize a halo, or like the halos that are around Saturn. It's a ring. Yeah. And the idea of the Ring of Ascension is that we have a halo around the Earth, but it's a fifth-dimensional halo. This fifth-dimensional halo allows the Ascended Masters to interact with us, and it allows us on the Earth to go up to the fifth dimension, but go up to the fifth dimension in an accessible way, and that accessible way is the Ring of Ascension. So this provides an interactional force field for us and the Ascended Masters.
And this is something we can go and visit in meditation, for example?
The Arcturians do special guided meditations for that. We can do special earth healings as a way of spreading out a fifth dimensional light. And I would like to say something briefly about fifth dimensional light and fifth dimensional energy. The fifth dimensional energy is what I call quantum. It doesn't follow the logic and of cause and effect. So that means that the energy can be miraculous. And to give you an example, Moses opened the Red Sea. There was no logical way he could have done that unless there was an intervention that was miraculous. And the fifth dimensional light is miraculous. So we're trying to work with the Arcturians to bring down this miraculous energy, which also is called quantum fifth dimensional light.
How far out is this Ring of Ascension? Is it kind of like between us and the moon, beyond the moon?
I've never really asked them the exact distance, but the moon is 239,000 miles from the Earth, and I don't see the Ring of Ascension being that far out. Okay. It's probably within a 30 to 60 mile diameter, but it would be relatively close to the Earth. It wouldn't be that far away.
Okay. Now, the other really amazing thing that they've kind of put over the Earth is this Escalia mirror. Can you say something about the Escalia mirror? Well,
the Escalia mirror is like an etheric mirror, and it gathers spiritual light. The idea is that we are receiving now spiritual light from the central sun. The central sun is the center of our galaxy. It's not an actual physical sun. As you may know, the center of our galaxy really is a black hole as opposed to a sun. But the central sun is the spiritual center of our galaxy. And we went through an alignment in December 22nd, 2012, which made it more easy for us to receive the spiritual energy from this area. Now, the Escalia mirror is like a gathering apparatus that allows us to receive and amplify the light, the spiritual light from that distance area, and then download it into our planet.
Right. Wow. And it's above. Is it above Alaska?
Well, basically, they say it's above the North Pole, and that it can be used to gather light from those areas. I'm sure, namely the central sun, but I'm sure it can be pointed in other directions. So it's close to Alaska.
Okay. And the other things that the etheric crystals planted here and the ladder of ascension, which I think is kind of connected. What about these tools?
Well, the idea is that the Earth's meridians are blocked, from various abuses, including radiation, blockages of rivers, and that the Arcturians felt there needs to be a new healing meridian system. And so what they did is that they have this concept called crystals, but planetary etheric crystals that are perhaps 1 mile in height.
All right.
And, these crystals were downloaded into 12 places on the planet that at the time were available and had volunteers that were willing to work with me and the Arcturians. The first one was downloaded in a beautiful place in Patagonia, Argentina, called Lago Puelo or Lake Puelo, which is on the Chile-Argentinian border, and there's a beautiful lake there. And we had almost 400 people that were gathered as we did the ceremony. Now, these crystals are like providing fifth-dimensional bases for creating a healing energy and healing light, and to establish what I call a bypass meridian system. Imagine that, God forbid, you would need a heart bypass surgery. You go away from the main artery because that artery is blocked. So this meridian system established with the 12 etheric crystals is like a bypass of energy to keep the Earth's force field alive and strong.
Great. And then there's 12 of them. Can you just mention where the others are?
Well, this is not the exact order, but there's one in Brazil in an area called Sierra de Bacanha, which is between Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. There's one in Costa Rica at a volcano called Vulcan Poás. There's one at Mount Shasta. There's one in Europe called Bodensee. It's also known as Lake Constance. There's one in Australia at an area called Grosse Valley, which is approximately 2 hours away from Sydney. There's one in Lake Taupo in New Zealand. And there's one in the Copper Canyon in Mexico near the city of Chihuahua. And then finally we have one in Mount Fuji, which is in Japan. And then we have one at Lake Moraine, which is in British Columbia, Canada.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, I know the Arcturians have got a Stargate, and through this Stargate, I believe we can access a healing temple. Can you say something about that? Because I've done meditations in the London group. It's phenomenal experience.
Well, I think it's important to point out that Edgar Cayce said that the Arcturians are the highest advanced spiritual beings in our galaxy. The Arcturians are overkeepers or guardians of the Stargate. Now, in order to get into the fifth dimension, you have to pass through the Stargate, and there are certain energy vibrations and certain codes and patterns of spirituality that you must achieve in order to go through the Stargate. So if you're meditating with the Stargate, you're meditating at the entranceway for the fifth dimension, and the Arcturians are helping us to guide us and teach us how to go through the Stargate.
Okay. And through the Stargate on the other side, I know they've set up a healing temple for us, I believe.
There are healing temples, and these temples are especially suited for us to purify us and bring us into a higher state of consciousness. This experience we're having now in the third dimension has had quite an effect on our energy field, on our aura, and I think everyone would benefit from some type of purification and healing light that can be provided in the Arcturian healing temples, which is, as you pointed out, through the Stargate.
So I think many of the listeners are interested in how the 5D process is going to unfold on the Earth with the help of the Arcturians. Do you think it's going to be sudden, dramatic, or longer and slower process of change?
Well, let me first answer the question about the ladders of ascension. We missed that. The Arcturians also said that we're going to go into an ascension process, and they've provided several points around the planet in which, at the point of ascension, we can astrally or telepathically travel to these points, and it'll be easy for us to ascend. The actual moment of ascension, I think, has been compared to the sound of Gabriel's horn or to some loud piercing noise an energy that has not been heard before on this planet. We may not have heard it yet. As soon as we do hear it, we will know what it is. And those of the higher spiritual vibration will be able to respond and take the appropriate spiritual accelerations in order to go into the fifth dimension. So, yes, I think it's going to be a sudden point. But at the same time, I have to say that only those who are preparing. Now, what does it mean to prepare? It means to purify yourself. It means to bring yourself into a higher spiritual vibration. It means to finish your life lessons on the earth. I want to point out to your listeners that it's not, okay, let's just sit back, kick back, and wait until this point comes. But it is a preparation, and it is not necessary to be 100% purified, but to keep on trying to purify ourselves until this point. But to answer your question, yes, I do see it as a sudden event.
Taking a broader perspective now on the Earth, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing us here on this kind of 3D ascending Earth at this time?
The greatest challenge is the destruction of the biosphere. The Earth is in danger of dying as a planet. The planet itself is not going to evaporate, but the biosphere, the life force energy that keeps everything going, is in danger of collapsing. This is particularly true of the oceans, but also there are many other examples I can give, particularly from radiation problems, such as from Fukushima, causing major dangers to the biosphere. And the second greatest danger is that because of the polarization, there is a general denial that the Earth is a living planet, the Earth is a spiritual planet, and that, as the Native Americans say, the Earth is our mother. We wouldn't treat our mother as badly as we're abusing our planet. So I think that the greatest resistance is for people to learn that this is a living planet and that we must treat her appropriately. My colleague from Germany, Oliver Hauck, and I made a movie called The Blue Jewel, and I hope you and your listeners would have a chance to listen to it. And the movie was made in Germany, and we showed how this is a living planet, and we did interviews with the Hopis and some other higher level conscious people to explain and teach that the Earth is a living planet and we must respond correctly, or else the Earth's biosphere will collapse.
And I think the Arcturians have warned us about one of the things you mentioned, Fukushima, the dangers of nuclear energy. Could you say something about that danger?
They are particularly critical of our use of nuclear energy. Because they feel that the nuclear energy is a technology we don't totally understand, and that we're using it without being able to have the proper safeguards, and that the radiation that all of us on the planet are being exposed to is greatly increased. It's not just Fukushima, but it's Chernobyl, but it's other radiations that have been dumped into the oceans. The Russians have dumped radiation into the oceans. The leakages of the nuclear power plants is creating a nuclear nightmare, a radiation nightmare on this planet, and our immune systems are being challenged because of that. So the Arcturians say that advanced planets do not use nuclear energy for their power source. And I do want to point out one thing, if I may, that the Arcturians have talked about stages of planetary development. That means that each planet, they say there are 5,000 planets that are Earth-like in the galaxy. Each planet goes through this stage of development which we're going through, which is the challenge of technology versus spiritual wisdom. Our planet has reached the point where our technology can destroy us, but also we could go to the Mars, we can go and leave the solar system. But unless we have the appropriate spiritual wisdom, then we are in danger of destroying ourselves. And nuclear energy and the radiation leakages is one way that we're close to destroying ourselves.
What about, let me ask you from another angle, what about this idea of star seeds, all these beings, souls coming in from different places to help with this awakening on the Earth? What do the Arcturians say very much about star seeds? Yes,
star seeds are beings who are spiritually advanced and have had incarnations on other planets. So the information about what we are talking about and about Arcturus, and of course there are other planetary systems such as the Pleiades, is not new to them. And the starseeds then are empaths. They are receiving information from higher planetary systems. They are able to comprehend the nature of what I call cosmic energy, cosmic spiritual energy, cosmic karma, all of these concepts that we're talking about. And the main concept, which we haven't really touched today on yet, biorelativity, which is a form of planetary healing that the Arcturians have developed. All of these concepts are normal to them, the starseeds, and they respond in a very positive way.
Do they come here with different missions, or do they all have more broadly the same mission?
People generally come here for several reasons, several missions. One is to participate in planetary healing and to help heal the Earth. Another mission is to observe what a planet is like that is going through these conflicts. Surprisingly, some of the starseeds come to the Earth to observe the way we might go visit ancient or primitive civilizations in the Amazon. If you can imagine an anthropologist going there wanting to see how people do marriage or how they do the rites of passage ceremonies, then you would go there and live into the planet, into the primitive society. So some of the starseeds are coming in from other planets as I call them galactic anthropologists.
Okay. And do you think that, so for example, if starseeds have got strong connections with the Arcturians, would we set up, for example, pre-existing agreements to work with them, or is it just something we come here and we're just drawn eventually to connecting with them?
Well, you still have your free will, so it's up to you whether you do that. But I would say it would be the latter, that you're drawn to connecting with them. You hear these ideas and you're interested in working to become a planetary healer. I have specific training that they've given us and on how to be a planetary healer, particular skills in how to lead special energy healings for the planet. So people would hear about these and go, oh, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I want to do this.
Well, so, David, it's been amazing talking with you. Thank you so much. Just to remind people that your website is groupof40.com. And I do hope one day you'll consider coming over to London and coming over and meeting us all.
Oh, I'd love to do that, Stephen. And I do want to do one plug for biorelativity, which is group meditations and group energies to telepathically communicate with the Earth. And I did want to mention our other program called Planetary Cities of Light, where we are taking specific cities which have star seeds in them and are helping to raise their spiritual light quotient so that the cities become protected from some of the negative forces that are occurring on the planet. But I appreciate this opportunity, and yes, we'd love to come visit your country sometime. So thank you again, Steve, for this opportunity.